welcome to Screenshots. My name is Mark Fischel. I'm the former president of the American Platform Tennis Association and an active tournament player. I'd like to introduce my co-host, Juan.
Hi, my name is Juan Araya and I'm the Director of Tennis and Platform Tennis at the Westchester Country Club in Rye, New York.
I'd also like to add that Juan is currently ranked number 5 in the country in men's and is the defending mixed doubles national champion with his partner Roxy Nika. This year, Juan and I would like to bring you a weekly or bi-weekly show depending on our schedules. We'll be covering the sport of platform tennis in an interesting and informative way.
Mark and I have decided to put this show together on our way back from Cincinnati, from playing the Midwesterns in the 90s last January, and we decided that it was a good idea to share our thoughts about the sports with all of you.
We'll be covering tournament results, APTA news, as well as giving you tips to make you a better player. We hope to make this an interactive venture, so we'd like your feedback, your constructive criticism, and even your compliments. Our email address is screenshots14@yahoo.com. Let's talk a little bit about the 2014 APTA Nationals in Pittsburgh, closed out the year last year. I didn't get to see too much of the women. I was toiling away in the 64 backdraw, which my partner Michael Montalbano put me in. So I didn't see anything pre-semifinals, but I know you were there. Talk to me about what you saw, what was interesting, what was competitive.
Well, I happened to watch a little bit because Roxy Nika, who is my partner and assistant professional here at Westchester, was playing with Martina. There weren't many competitive matches until the round of 16, and then we actually happened to have the first competitive match of the tournament, which was between Manley and Ruoff against Noyes and Kakash. Manley and Ruoff ended winning 7-6 in the third. But they were very good points and it was a very well played match. Okay. Another surprising surprising result for me was in the round of 16, Roxy and Martina actually beating Prop and Schnittbeck with a score of 6-1, 6-2. Based on the experience that Prop and Schnittbeck have and the very little experience that Roxy and Martina have, it's kind of a surprising score because I was expecting Prop and Schnittbeck to adjust a little bit.
That must have been interesting because that was a classic matchup of old school paddle versus new age paddle, something we'll talk about as the season goes on. I mean, Prop and Schneebeck, a veteran team, play a very slow style. Martina and Roxy banging the ball, driving a lot, really new age paddle at its finest. But take me, what else did you see that was interesting to you?
Well, once we go into the quarterfinals, we had some matches that the score shows that weren't that competitive. Anna and Vicky beat Liz Jaffe and Lisa Rodloff 6-love, 6-1, Anna and Vicky being Brasova and Stoklasova.
Defending national champions from Indian Trail in New Jersey 2013.
So based on the seeds, that wasn't a surprise. Anna and Vicky came to the tournament very strong. They won a lot of tournaments throughout the season. I think they only lost one match or two matches.
I think one match is correct in an APTA sanctioned event.
And then Dalton Naslock beat Delaney and Mangan 6-2, 6-1. So another match that by the score we can say wasn't that competitive, wasn't that close. Flynn and Tarsian beat Manley and Ruoff 6-love in the third. I actually happened to watch a little bit of that match because they were playing right next to Roxy and Martina when they were battling in their quarterfinal match. And that was a very well played match. They played really fun points. It was really fun to watch.
Talk to me a little bit about Roxy and Martina's big win in the quarterfinals.
Well, that was
against the number 2 seed.
Yeah, they're playing against the number 2 seed of Dardis and Shea, a team that they never beat before. They were definitely the favorites.
And Dardis and Shea were coming off a terrific season. They hadn't lost to anybody outside of Anna and Vicky the entire season.
Yeah, that says very good things about them. They're a very strong team. They've been competing. They've been playing tournaments for a very long time, and they've been always in the top 3 in the country, at least for the past since I've been playing.
Although historically, they've always struggled at nationals.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
Yeah, since I've been playing, I can agree with that. I've seen that they have always good seasons, but when it comes to nationals, they have it's a little bit of a challenge for them. I don't know why. But going back to the match, Roxy and Martina played a very good first set. It was a very close set. I was actually surprised that they were able to close that set being such a close match and they win 7-5. Then we go to the second set. Martina and Roxy start getting a little nervous. I think they see the finish line, and Cynthia and Amy took advantage of this. They started playing very steady paddle, making very little mistakes. They win 6-2. They're up 2-love in the third set, and then Roxy and Martina picked it up again, and they were able to win 6-2.
So 6 games in order to close the match out.
Yeah, they were starting to hit hard. I think that the key of that match was that they started making Cynthia run. They started hitting hard to her screens, and she struggled a little bit with that.
That hard overhead, we're going to talk about it more, but it's become a huge part of the game, both the men's and women's game. Okay, so any other quarterfinal matches in the women's draw to talk about?
Well, those were the quarterfinals.
Okay, so semifinals on Saturday afternoon before the men's quarters. I got to watch the Roxy and Martina match versus Kerry Flynn and Sue Tarzan, which was a terrific match. Roxy and Martina came out hot. I think we're up 4-1 in the first set. And then they seemed to get a little tight. I don't know whether it was the moment that got to them or what, but the game definitely slowed down. They ended up losing 5 games in a row. It was sloppy paddle, I thought. Lost the first set 6-4. Second set is a reverse. Flynn and Tarzan get up early. I think actually served for the match at 5-3 in the second set.
5-3, 40-15. They had too much points.
Too much points. They got a little tight. The match reverses. Roxy and Martina come back and are ahead 6-5 in the second set.
They're ahead 6-5. They go to 6-all. They get to a breaker. It's a very close breaker. They had some chances, but they couldn't close it out. And I have to say that from the outside, we can say that the experience played a big part of this.
I agree with that completely. Kerry and Sue had been in semifinals in Indian Trail the previous year and really played the only competitive match with Anna and Vicky losing 6-4 in the third. And I really felt like a couple of times the moment got to Roxy and Martina. Other semifinal match has Doughton and Nuzlocke versus Anna and Vicky.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about that one.
I was watching Roxy and Martina, but on the changeovers I could see a few points, and Doughton and Nuzlocke with the first set 6-4. But even though Anna and Vicky lost that set, they never looked that they were that they weren't.
They were in control.
It looked like they were always in control, and then that shows that the last 2 sets were 6-2, 6-2.
Yeah, it felt to me that Anna and Vicky made a few too many errors in the first set. Pace got away from them a little bit. Then they kind of buttoned it up, played solid paddle the last 2 sets, and won relatively easily. So that takes us to Sunday. So the women's final is played between the men's semis and the men's final. So women's final is a rematch of the terrific match at Indian Trail in 2013 between Flynn and Tarzan and Anna and Vicky. Flynn and Tarzan win the first set 7-5, very tight competitive set. Now everybody coming in really felt like Anna and Vicky were the favorites, and I think in fairness they were big favorites.
They were the favorites. They only lost 1 match all season, and they're the number 1 seed.
Vicky is, I think without question, the best player in the game these days, and Anna is just really rock solid. I thought at Indian Trail Anna was the difference. They had 2 very competitive games at 4-all in the third, and Anna came up with some big shots. So second set of the final, Anna and Vicky turn things around. They win the set 6-3, and you definitely have a feeling watching the match it's going to be like the semis, except that it wasn't. Kerry Flynn in particular is a terrific competitor, and she really got her teeth into the match. They were down a break early in the third, got back on serve, and Kerry steps up to the line at 4-all in the third and holds serve. So then Vicky's serving 4-5, 15-30, and they're in a bit of trouble. And Anna came up with some terrific shots, made a couple of great reflex volleys, and I think in a lot of ways was the difference. It's interesting, Vicky being such a dominant player, all the balls go to Anna. I mean, I would say that in that match, Flynn Tarzan played 75% of the balls to Anna.
Yeah.
So when they come out and they end up holding serve there, Anna's the one who makes the big shots. So they have a couple more exchanges of holds. They get to 8-all in the third, and it was really tense. And Flynn and Tarzan were playing great, but I think at that point in the proceedings, age started to play a big factor. And I think that Flynn and Tarzan got tight. Kerry served a bad game at 8-all in the third. Vicky served a good game at 9-8. And once again, Anna and Vicky are national champions, 2-time defending national champions, number 1 seed. Any other thoughts on the match?
I think they deserved the win. They played great. They had a great season. They were the number 1 seed. They were the big favorites. They got it done.
I think, and many other people have said this, so I'm not the first one, that the 2014 APTA Nationals in Pittsburgh on the men's side was the single deepest draw I have ever seen. And I'm not just saying that because I lost in the 64 back draw twice. Juan, what were your thoughts on the tournament?
I think the tournament was very competitive. There was nowhere to hide in the draw. All the matches from the first round you had to play, otherwise you were in danger of going to the 64 back draw.
I would know a lot about that. But we're not going to bore you with the 64 back draw and how many overheads Monty missed in it. So let's talk about the main draw, round of 32, which was the first match of interest that you saw that you want to comment on.
Well, yeah, I think that I was actually having a really good match. I was playing, Alex and I were playing against Alex Manchila, sorry, and I were playing against Carl Lemanat and Faisal Rasali.
They made the 32s?
They made the 32, surprisingly. We had a really good first set, but then the second set was a little faster, and we were playing right next to Mark Parsons, Johan Durant, that were playing against Baxter and Heath. They were playing really good points from the very beginning. I was focused on my match, but you could hear what was going on the next court. And once I finished my match, I went and watched a little bit of it. I saw Baxter and Heath win the second set in the breakers, 7-6, and that's when I left. But Johan and Mark obviously pulled it off. They won 6-1 in the third, and but it was really fun to watch. Fast pace, great points, and that's, I think, where the sport is going.
Okay, round of 16, our first big upset of the tournament. We have the two Swedes, Sebastian Bredberg and Martin Bostrom, beating John Lubau and Steve DeRose, the number 2 seeds. Talk to me a little bit about this match and the matchup between those two teams. Were you surprised by the result, first of all?
Well, I think it's an upset if you go by the seeds. Lubau DeRose are seeded number 2. Martin and Sebastian are seeded lower.
I think 16 coming in.
16 coming in.
Although, to be fair, Sebastian had shoulder surgery in July and misses the first 4 months of the season. He comes back and makes his debut in Boston late January. So he was just kind of getting his legs underneath him. And Sebi is one of the most athletic players in the game. So coming into nationals, he was fresh. He and Martin really found some rhythm.
I agree. They started playing great. So it was an upset based on the papers, but I don't think it was a big upset.
Based on the matchup?
Based on the matchup, I mean, the way Martin and Sebastian play is a very aggressive way. They play very much like tennis, and Lubau DeRose, they like to drive the ball a lot. So with Martin and Sebastian that volley very well, I think it's gonna always be challenging for Lubau DeRose. I don't think Sebastian and Martin will always win, but it's gonna be close in the next matches that they play against each other.
You know, you bring up an interesting point, and we're going to talk about this a lot as the season goes on, that our game is one of matchups. And Lubau DeRose want to play very fast, and that's an effective style against a slower placed team, somebody, for instance, like Drew Broderick, that they've had good success with, but maybe not so successful against a team as athletic as Sebastian and Martin. Yeah. Okay, so quarterfinals. A couple of terrific quarterfinals, some others that weren't so good. Talk to me about the quarterfinal matches that you saw.
Well, I was actually lucky to be part of one of them. Alex and I played against Marco Grangeiro and George Wilkinson in one of the quarterfinals. We actually happened to play pretty well, but unfortunately for George and Marco, they were a little tight. They couldn't play well.
George especially was nervous.
It wasn't a good match for them, and we took advantage of it. So we ended up winning pretty handily, but it was more because they were a little tense. You can feel that they could feel the pressure.
Yeah, that's fair to say. They did feel the pressure, but you guys jumped all over them, won the first 9 games, I recollect.
Yes.
And Alex in particular played probably his best match of the tournament.
I agree with that. Alex played very, very well that match.
Okay, so that's one quarter. Then we had the Broderick Gambino McKnight Rose match, which was a matchup from the previous year at Indian Trail, where McKnight and Rose had a lesson, which I don't think they had to pay for, but I think they lost relatively easily in Indian Trail in New Jersey. It was a little bit different in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it was 7-5, 7-5. Long match, long points, but once again, I think that McKnight and Rose, have to be a little more aggressive at the net to beat these kind of teams. They volley great, they have a great backcourt game, but when it comes to overheads, they don't challenge the backcourt team enough.
I think that's a good point. Those guys are terrific athletes. They volley really well, but the game has evolved to the point where the net has become an offensive place, and the top players in the game make you uncomfortable when you're in the backcourt. And if you're not making people uncomfortable from the net, I don't think that you're getting to the top levels of the game. So before we talk more about that, the other two quarterfinals?
Was in Bakker and Goodspeed. They beat Sebastian Bredberg and Martin Bostrom.
Yeah, I have the benefit of seeing that entire match. Flip Goodspeed, 53 years old, Hall of Famer, 8-time national champion. Those are big numbers. Flip just played an amazing match. I mean, Martin and Sebi came out. I don't think they were bothered at all by the moment. They played well early. Sebastian did a lot of his trademark blitzing. Sebi is a ruthless blitzer who loves hitting people. And every time he blitzed and hit a good volley, Flip came up with the answer. They won the first set relatively easily, 6-1. And I think early second set, Sebastian and Martin got a little bit uncomfortable and started to press. So talk to me about, you've seen it many times, when you get someone out of their element and they start pressing, what happens?
Well, in paddle you cannot press. The faster you play, the worse it is.
And that's what happened that day. Second set went relatively easily, and the 53-year-old Flip Goodspeed was into another national semifinal. Last quarterfinal of the day was the last match of the night. Weather was starting to get bad. Number 1 seeds, defending national champions, Mark Parsons, Johan Durant, playing against the 2007 national champions, Mike Cochran, Scott Estes. Match.
They were the only team ever to beat Durant and Parsons in an APTA sanctioned tournament.
And that was at the 2013 Chicago Charities in the quarterfinals under the lights. So match starts off, and the first really interesting thing that happens is Mark and Johan unveil a new formation.
They start playing with an I formation where Johan stands in the middle of the court and Mark starts hitting overheads towards the deuce court, Nick, and starts hitting pretty much 3 nicks out of 4 shots. It was amazing to watch. They were both playing great.
It was interesting because it was really indicative of people being in the right place. So Mark's overhead aiming for the nick is unbelievable, and no one plays the net like Johan. It really seems like Johan can cover the entire court from the center strap, and I'm sure, having played against him numerous times, you know how that feels. So they come out, they win 8 of the first 9 games in maybe 25 minutes, and they look completely dominant and overpowering. And here's where platform tennis differs from virtually every other sport I've ever participated in. The momentum can shift on the drop of a hat. So Cochran and Estes switch strategies, and Cochran moves over to the deuce court. So normally Mike returns from the backhand, Scott being a lefty plays the forehand. They switch sides to have their forehands on the outside. So now when they're attacking the nick, Mark and Johan are vulnerable because their forehand's coming back at them. So here, instead of Mark and Johan adjusting, what ended up happening?
Well, Scott and Mike adjusted strategies. When they switched sides, Mike started playing great, started making a lot of shots. Johan started to play a little faster, started making mistakes, also started raining. A lot of things happened, and they ended getting to a tiebreaker.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch because I really felt that Johan got tight. Johan is 2-time national champion. Many people consider him the best player in the game, and he really struggled that night. I don't know whether it was the weather, I don't know whether it was the lights. And as we mentioned earlier, their only loss came under the lights in Chicago. It seemed to me he was struggling seeing the ball, but he was really struggling. They got into a breaker. The breaker was terrific. Scott and Mike had 4 set points, and you really felt like the match was hanging in the balance. At the end of the day, Mark Parsons was the difference in that match. He came up with a number of big shots and really played brilliantly. He was the guy that I think saved their season, because I think if they lose that breaker, they lose that match. Cochran and Estes, veteran team, smart team. I think once they get their hands around them, I think that would have been a tough 3rd set to win. But we'll never know, because Parsons Grant win the tiebreaker and take us to Sunday. So now let's talk about Sunday.
Can we skip that?
I thought that you did skip it.
Okay, we did.
We did. Okay, so Sunday morning, I knew coming out Sunday that you were going to see different Johan Durant. And unfortunately for Juan, we didn't. So let's talk a little bit about your semifinal. We don't have to talk about it too much because it didn't take too long to play. But let's talk about your semifinal against those guys. I remember you got out early, you had a chance to break early, and then what happened?
We were a break early, we got broken back, and then we lost 6 games in a row to go. We were up 3-2, we lost 6 games in a row, we were 6-3, 3 love down. We never were under control of that match. They played great, we made a lot of mistakes. We never had a chance.
Now they were using the I formation again.
Yes.
Did you and Alex talk about a similar shift to what Estes and Cochran had done the night before?
Well, we talked about playing on the backcourt a little different, but I have to admit I don't feel comfortable playing on the deuce court, which Alex does. Alex can play very well both sides.
I know Alex
but
likes the backhand.
But I just
Didn't happen.
didn't happen.
Okay, so that match was relatively fast, which contrasted with the other semifinal, with Flip Goodspeed and Rob Bacher playing against Chris Gambino and Drew Broderick. So that match, Chris and Drew win the first set, lose the second, win the first 4 games the third. And I don't mean to imply that any of this happened quickly, because the total time for the match was about 3 hours, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So you played your match, showered, had lunch, took a nap, and then came back out to watch the second set?
Yeah, well, actually I went to the psychiatrist for a little bit as well after losing because I was a little upset.
Just a little upset.
Just a little upset. I never get that upset.
Never.
I came back and they were still playing. I couldn't believe it. I started watching on the live stream because I didn't want to go close to the courts. I was still too upset, which I thought I wasn't, but I was about my loss. And they had a great war.
So Broderick and Gambino get a 4-love in the third. Looks like it's going to be relatively easily, except in platform tennis it almost never is. So Bacher and Goodspeed win 4 games in a row, get to 4-all. Flip serving 4-all in the third. They have a long deuce-sad game. Broderick and Gambino end up winning that, winning the last game. So it's kind of interesting at this point. The match starts we had a little bit of a weather delay, so the match started a little late, and then they play a 3-hour, 40-minute match. You had the women's semis, men's finals, you're trying to get it all in, so it was a little complicated. There were some issues about how long to give them between the semis and finals, and ultimately the decision was to give them an hour. And I think that was the right decision. When you decide to play that type of style, Juan, tell me some of the drawbacks to it, tell me some of the advantages, because obviously that's a completely different style that Drew and Chris play than the rest of the other national semifinalists play.
Yeah, they still play a slow-paced game. And they usually take longer than other teams to win. Unfortunately, in the end, that will take a toll on you. And if you want to play that style, you have to train for it. I think Drew is in very good shape and he can play that style forever. But I think that Chris got very tired. He started cramping, and it's not a good thing if you're cramping to play Johan Durant.
Yeah, Chris was also dealing with a calf injury, so finals comes out, and it was more of an exhibition than a platform tennis match. The 2 teams had played in Boston earlier in the year in January, and it was a very similar match. In Boston, Chris and Drew got up an early break, were up 4-1, and then I think Johan and Mark won 12 of the last 15 games.
I have to say that in Boston, Drew and Chris had a very quick semifinal because they beat Alex and I like 3-love. They played very well, we made a lot of mistakes. So that one wasn't the issue of how long they played or how tired Chris was. I think that was a match that just happened to be that way. Johan and Mark played better, they won.
So maybe if Chris and Drew got to play you guys in the semifinals, things might have been different in Pittsburgh.
Probably.
Maybe not. So the finals comes out, and Johan puts on an exhibition, the likes of which few of us have ever seen. He must have put away 10, 12, 15 overheads?
He was hitting this overhead drop shot that I personally like to hit, but he was doing it better. So that was very frustrating to watch for me, but also very frustrating to watch if you were on the other side of the court. Chris got drop shot, unfortunately, like 10, 15 times. They were hitting hard to his corner, they were making him move, opening that side. Then Drew started pressing, he started making some mistakes as well. You could tell from the very first game that match wasn't going to be that long.
They really, it was a great example of how the hard overhead has changed the game. Used to be, you could sit back in your corner, hit a bunch of lobs, and wait for an error from the team at the net. But that's not the case anymore. And as Johan did in Boston, he hit that hard driving overhead into Chris's back screen, pulled him out, got him out of position, and volleyed behind him numerous times when he wasn't hitting the drop shot over him. So Durant Parsons win their second consecutive national championship. I would say a little tougher than it was in Indian Trail in 2013 where they didn't lose a set. But again, other than the quarters, I don't think they really were taken out of their element at all. So coming into the new season, they are the defending champs and big favorites to repeat. Okay, so this year, Juan, I'm very excited to hear that you and Mark Parsons have formed a new league, the Premier Paddle League, which is going to involve the top players in the Northeast. Talk to me a little bit about the league and how you and Mark came up with it and why.
Well, Mark and I came up with this idea last winter. As you know, we run our programs at our clubs in the Westchester area, and the league is very, very strong, but a lot of members were starting to complain that there were a lot of pros.
This is the Westchester County League.
The Westchester County League, the Westchester Platform Tennis League, and a lot of members were starting to complain that there were a lot of pros participating in the league, and they were taking spots from the members. So in order to give all the pros the possibility to continue competing besides the tournaments, we wanted to put this league together, which is going to be great for all of us to stay active and have fun matches.
Now, so Juan, what's the format of the league?
Well, the league is going to be formed by 8 teams. We have Mark and I have assigned 8 captains, and the 8 captains are Marco Grangeiro, Anton Magrin, Martin Bostrom, Sebastian Bredberg, George Wilkinson, Max Lepivert, Mark Parsons, and I. And we're going to be playing out of our clubs where we are directors from. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a draft party on Monday, September 29th. The draft is going to be like an NFL draft.
And that's going to be here at the Westchester Country Club?
That's going to be here at the Westchester Country Club at 7 p.m. And hopefully we're going to have a live stream. And if we don't, then we're going to record it for all of you to see.
Now talk to me about the format of the league. I play in the Long Island League. We have 6 courts. How many courts you can have in this
We're
league?
going to have 4 courts, 3 men's doubles and 1 women's doubles.
So each team is comprised of how many players?
It's 3 women and 8 men.
8 men. So you'll have some subs, but not a lot.
Yes.
Okay. And you expect teams to anybody? Is it New York, New Jersey, Connecticut?
Oh, we have players from New Jersey, Drew Broderick, Steve LaRose, John Lubau. All the top players from New Jersey are coming over. Then we have a lot of players from here, Cochrane, Parsons, all the top players in the area. Marco Rangelos, he's the captain. All the top players in the area are participating.
When is the league starting?
The league starts by the end of October. We're coming up with a schedule soon that we're going to inform to all the captains when we do the draft.
Okay, anything else about the league we should know about?
Yeah, we're going to host the league online, so all the players and all the fans are going to be able to follow it, and you can follow a player and see how that player does and who's playing with. It's a 7-week league. The matches are not going to be every week. We're going to schedule the matches around the tournament schedule, so all the players can continue playing the tournaments, the APTA ranking tournaments, and not have any fights at home with their wives or husbands. So we're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great year, and we're going to look to improve it and make it better and bigger next year.
So that wraps up today and our first show of screenshots. I want to again encourage everybody to give us their feedback, questions, comments. Anybody want to speak English, just let us know.
Yes.
Screenshots14@yahoo.com, and we look forward to seeing you guys again in the future.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. One, two, three.
Welcome to Screenshots. My name is Mark Fischel. I'm the former president of the American Platform Tennis Association.
You're going like 4-0. I haven't that once yet.
I'm killing you.
No worries, I don't care.
Okay.
Wait, when I say 3, 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Screenshots. My name is Mark Fischel. I'm the former president of the American Platform Tennis Association. Oh. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Welcome to Screenshots. My name is Mark Fischel. I'm the former president of the American Platform Tennis Association and an active.
You were saying, yeah, you were laughing. You were laughing.
Okay.
Come on.
I'm trying to think of something really nasty. Stop laughing.